to subscribe, like, and comment below.
Hi everyone, it is Monica here from TV and Popcorn, and I'm coming to you to discuss one of the hottest shows on the table right now, because there is a movie that's coming out to follow up and let us know what happened after the fact, which is pretty cool. So I'm coming to you guys to talk about Breaking Bad and also the hype around the El Camino film. If you have never watched Breaking Bad, and I don't see how many people haven't seen the show, but you know, not everyone watches everything. So if you have not seen Breaking Bad, if you have not seen Better Call Saul, if you have not heard about any of these characters, go check it out on Netflix and then come on back and chime into my review here. So I'm doing kind of a review just to chat with you guys about how I feel as far as the show goes. So just straight up front, full out spoilers, you guys. So once again, you haven't seen it, go check it out, come back. I did not like whatsoever. I did not like Breaking Bad. I did not understand Breaking Bad. Now, I know you guys are going to be like, say what? What do you mean you didn't like it or understand it? So while myself and my family was binge watching this show some time ago, it's been some years now, when we finally finished, I believe, 5 seasons there is for Breaking Bad. When we finished the 5th season, I personally could not, I don't know, hang with the show. It moved too slow for me. When you're watching Breaking Bad for the first time, I don't know if anybody else experienced this, but I'm just going off of my reaction initially. Now, I've binge watched the show since then. I would say probably in the past 2 or 3 months prior to this particular review, and I had a different vibe about the show. The same reason I didn't like the show before, I may have kind of come up off of that a little bit my second time around, but there were several things about the show that I felt like was just off to me. And I'll go into that in a minute. So when I first watched and binge watched Breaking Bad, I could not stand how slow paced the show was. I was ready for it to move on, get forward, you know, just move on past. Now, mind you, a lot of people did not like Walter White. Now, Walter White's character is based off, you know, he's supposed to be this chemistry teacher who pretty much gets into the business of making and dealing meth. Okay, he's a chemist, so he's able to make this meth at 99% purity. Pretty much, basically, in the drug world, that's 100%. Okay, but he's able to do this. And all the while, a lot of people didn't like Walter, but more so, there was a lot of hatred towards his wife, Skyler. When I first binge watched Breaking Bad years ago, I didn't like Skyler either. As I've matured in my life since those years, I understand Skyler's character now, because really what we're seeing is a woman with an intuition that's working for her. She just does not know where to place it. Okay, I can't recall whether I rooted for Walter White to live and survive past what he was going through when I first binge watched it. I just can't remember my, you know, being one of those people who rooted for Walter's character. But let me tell you guys this, I definitely did not root for his character the second time I binged this show. Now, I did not start binging Breaking Bad because of the El Camino movie, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. I did not start binging Breaking Bad for that reason. A lot of people are now going back and binging the show again just so they can be up to date with El Camino once it comes out, coming up here in November. So I personally rewatched Breaking Bad because I had gotten caught up in the Better Call Saul series. As we're watching Better Call Saul, I'm like, hold on. You know, there's a lot of flashbacks going on. We see Saul in Better Call Saul. We're looking at basically you see some flashbacks, but you see some flash forwards of his life after, he's become Saul Goodman. Okay. Because of course his name was Jimmy initially. And so in Better Call Saul, we understand how he goes to, changing his name and bringing on this persona and all of this, these things as far as his law practice goes. So I'm about to say law degree. But anyway, so when we were watching the show, I was thinking, you know what? I want to go back and watch Breaking Bad now so I can understand what place Saul was in, because of course Better Call Saul is still a active show. And they're working on a new season currently as well. And I want to say I left off in the 4th season. You guys do not quote me on that, but I believe it was the 4th season. And so by the 4th season of that show, I'm like, okay, let me go back and check up and see what went on in Breaking Bad so I can kind of be caught up. And then we get the news that Netflix is coming out with the El Camino movie. Now, what's up with El Camino? El Camino is going to take place after Walter White goes in and helps free Jesse from, I guess, the Nazi type drug dealers that had captured him in the last season of Breaking Bad. Now, mind you, I am super excited to see what happened to Jesse. The first time around, I could not stand Jesse either when I binge watched the first time. The second time, I understood Jesse. I think that Jesse was young, as far as his character goes. He was young, he was ambitious, but he was also very submissive to power, okay? And so when it came down to Walter White, and I'm going to get so deep into him in a minute, I think Jesse, although he knew what Walter was doing was wrong, Jesse was kind of a dreamer as well. So he's trying to figure out how he's going to establish this lifestyle that he really wants to live, do it in a fast-paced time. And although he wanted to break ties with Walter on several occasions, he could never bring himself to fully do so until the end, only because Walter presented, that quick way to get money, and he made it easy too, because he was able to, in the drug world term, cook, the way that they needed him to cook, right? So I felt so bad for Jesse the second time in my most recent binge watch of Breaking Bad, because I could understand how Jesse is now seeing that the life and the lies were pretty bad, and he didn't want to be caught up in that life. What I wish Jesse had done, and he really hit rock bottom when they killed the little boy after the whole train heist. And guys, do not quote me on what they were stealing. I know it had something to do with what they need to cook, but I can't think of the term right now. It's not even on my brain. But you guys know what I'm talking about. Jesse really hit rock bottom during that time. And so what I really wished for Jesse, as far as the way the show's outcome was, as a viewer who's like, oh gosh, what's going to happen to him? I wish once Walter had paid him the money, which Jesse begged so much for, the millions that Walter owed him, because Jesse had helped them, pretty much invest in restarting up the business in season 5 after Walter killed Gus. It was a hot mess, and that is a hot mess, and I'm gonna get back into that in a minute. But when he received that money, he should have just bounced right then and there. If you're gonna be upset, you're gonna be angry, you're gonna be sad, be that way on your own island somewhere. That was my hope for Jesse. I felt so bad for him. Now, at the point that Jesse ended up getting captured by the Nazi group, we already know that he was pretty much turning Walter in. Unfortunately, there was a sad turn of events in season 5, and they ended up killing Hank, his partner, and capturing Jesse. And they were supposed to kill Jesse, and Walter wanted them to kill Jesse, but they needed to keep Jesse in order to get the purity of the cook that they needed, right? Because they all still trying to deal these drugs. And so anyway, that ended up being where Jesse was for several months, over a course of months or weeks, or however that panned out timeline wise. And then Walter ends up going and saving him from that group. And Walter didn't even care about the money at this point, and by this time his cancer had already come back. So let's jump on Walter real quick. Speaking of cancer, the reason he got into cooking in the first place and cooking and dealing is because he had cancer and he needed the money to pay for the treatment, right? Well, he gets this bright idea. He meets Jesse, and the reason he meets Jesse, or the way he meets him, is because he is pretty much going on some type of stakeout at a drug dealer's house with his brother-in-law, Hank, who is a DEA agent. Now, how crazy are you to really think you can start doing this the way Walter did, and your brother-in-law is a DEA agent, which is Hank, right? I really didn't like Hank either, but that's neither here nor there. I might get to that and I might not, but hang with me. So Walter himself goes and he does this. He's doing drugs and he makes a buku of money, to the point where he's trying to see where to stash it at this point. And he ends up paying all the money he needs for his treatment. And by season 1, Walter's cancer goes into remission. Okay, so let's talk about my dislike for the show. Here's one of the reasons I dislike Breaking Bad. First of all, every freaking season 1 through 5, I should say 1 through 4, because 5 was really a climax type season, but 1 through 4, every season finale, I feel like Walter should have just got out. Like, why is he still in this? After the first season, I think that should have been the end. I could not for the life of me understand, even the second time of binging this show, why Walter White's character would really go so far out on the deep end the way he did. He had the money. He is free of cancer. He has his family, which he cried the whole first freaking season that's what it was all about, and he wanted to leave money for his daughter, because his wife was pregnant. Skylar was pregnant at the time. So, and then he has Walter Jr., his older son, which he's a teenager at this point in high school. He has a family, and that's what he was crying this was all about. By the time he reaches season 2, now it's all about pretty much pride, wanting to feel that I guess you could say that rush, that adrenaline of doing this thing. I can't in my mind fathom why Walter would go as far as he did leading up to the climax of season 5. I felt like personally, now you guys are going to say, I know, I can hear it, I can hear it. When you say, well, that's why it's called Breaking Bad, because it shows one person starting off doing something for one reason, and then they go into it and do it for a total, they get into it for a totally different reason. They become a totally different person. So we see him completely change, which is true, which then he wants everybody to say his name, which his alias is Heisenberg, right? And so when Walter tries to pretty much break bad, literally, he's trying to put on this persona that he's such a boss. But that was my other problem with the show. And mind you, Brian, who plays Walter White, did a heck of a job playing Walter White. I mean, no doubt about it. Honestly, I can't say too much about the acting throughout this show at all. So kudos to the actors, in this series. I mean, they really, whatever character it was, whether you like the character or not, they committed. Okay. So I'm not saying that about the actor himself who didn't take it there, but I felt like Walter, being in his position and how he started, he wasn't believable enough to be a boss. You know what I mean? What happened was he ended up making the right connections, but I felt like the show Breaking Bad should have been more so centered around Gus and Gus Fring, which ended up being one of the biggest like drug, dealers or lords in that area, right? He's dealing drugs all over the states pretty much, and he's doing it through his chicken business and several other business that he has. And let me tell you, the actor who plays Gus, oh my God, Gus, if looks could kill, wow. That's all I'm gonna say about that. But I felt like the series should have been more centered around Gus, Saul, and Tuco, and the people who were really, really into the gang. And then Walter's character, to me, should have been more of a behind the scenes every few episodes. I felt like the show was backwards. In my personal opinion, I didn't feel like Walter's character was enough to keep me wanting to, watch the show and interested in the show. And the reason I stuck to the show for so long, binging it even the second time, was because this time around, since I knew what had already gone down in the show, it felt a lot faster to me. For some reason, it moved faster. But when you first watch it, it's like, what? And you're trying to keep up with the characters and who's doing what. But since I already knew going into it, it felt a lot different. But with Walter, I felt like I just couldn't stand him. So moving past that, Walter kills Mike. Now Mike is like your everything you need guy. Everything dirty you need done, everything dirty you need cleaned, every swap, every drop you need, he's there and he's got your back, right? Now, Mike also, too, since Mike was an ex-cop and he had quite a history, we learned more about Mike's history in Better Call Saul. And Mike was the other reason why I wanted to jump back onto the show Breaking Bad, because his character was very mysterious, and I was trying to remember, his role in Breaking Bad, and couldn't really come up with what happened to him in the end. Some people say he didn't really die, but then, oh my gosh, when I watched season 5 he was killed in, I do believe, when Walter shot him, I was like, okay. And when he was sitting out looking across the pond and he said, just let me die in peace, I'm like, what? I didn't think he had, I didn't know they showed that he had really died until, and I'm glad I rewatched it, until Walter pulled up into the garage where they were, starting to cook a new location, and Mike's body was in the trunk. But I was pissed. I'm just going to say that. I didn't feel like Walter's character was worthy of killing a character like Mike. I personally really did like Mike. I like the fact that Mike had loyalty to whatever job he was assigned, no matter what side it fell on. And I felt like he was one of the more honest characters of the show, although very dirty, very bad, in the way he was dealing in the line of business he was in. Forget any moral compass. The guy just, he pretty much, I wouldn't say had loyalty to one person, but he had loyalty to his duties. I could respect that. And I felt like Walter did not deserve to kill Gus. I don't know if anybody else felt that way, but he did not deserve to be killed by Walter, number one. And number two, he didn't deserve to be in the trunk and being put in a barrel by Walter either. And I felt like, dang, if only Mike would have followed through on his gut instinct, because he never liked Walter. Or should I say him and Walter got along to get along until Walter killed Gus. And so then we go down this rabbit hole, and Walter's killing major players throughout Breaking Bad, but you want to believe his bad, but you don't. It's not what it needs to be for me. And so when Walter kills Gus, his relationship with Mike just spirals, along with Jesse. Jesse knows that he killed Mike as well. And Mike pretty much had Jesse's back throughout. I think that Mike saw a lot of innocence in Jesse, and in a way he wanted to protect that, because Mike himself was a father, but unfortunately his son was killed by corrupt cops, which caused Mike to kind of go down his spiral, path. And so I feel like he may have not necessarily looked at Jesse like a son, but he saw that Jesse needed guidance, and I would say guidance for somebody who's probably been there, done that, a little bit more mature, than he is. So overall, that was my biggest, I guess you could say, issue with Breaking Bad as a show. Is number one, it moved too slow for me. Number two, I felt like the role should have been reversed. Even though they spent a lot of time on every character, I can give Breaking Bad that. You kind of felt like everybody had, or every character, or should I say the main ones anyway, Jesse, Gus, Hank, Mike, Walter, all had their own piece of the show, including Saul. But what amazed me this second binge around me watching the show is I did not feel like there was enough of Saul, which I guess that's the reason why they went ahead and, created his spin-off show, because you just wanted to have a few more scenes with this guy, because he's just loony and all over the place. And even though Saul is the lawyer, what I couldn't understand in the show is why Saul always felt like because somebody else was in trouble, he was in trouble, and people weren't even looking at him or for him in a way, you know what I mean? So that part, I was like, Saul is just too much. But Saul was also kind of that guy like Mike. He stuck to the job, but Saul, unlike Mike was loyal to the job. Saul was loyal to his money. So if you was the one giving him money, you were going to be the one he was going to be loyalty to at the time. Oh gosh, or bring loyalty to at the time. Which is what happened between Walter and Jesse. That's why Walter was able to get Saul to flip on Jesse and do things so many times. And let me tell y'all, when I found out, and I don't know how I missed this the first binge around years ago, but the second time around, when I found out that it was Walter who poisoned that little kid, Jesse's girlfriend's son, in the show, I flipped. I'm like, dang, Walter is so evil, just evil. Now, what was Walter loyal to? I lost all respect for him, because from the second to climax, Walter was not loyal to anybody but himself. It wasn't about necessarily even the drugs. It wasn't even necessarily about the money. At that point, leading on from season 2 to the finale, Walter only cared about how he felt as a man. What gave him that rush? What made him feel important? What made him feel powerful? So really, I guess you could say at the end, he was more loyal to power, right? So all in all, the show is interesting. I just wish it was flipped around, and that Walter was more so a backstory, a back end, story coming in and out. And it was just focused on, okay, where did Gus come from? And we get a glimpse of it, a little bit of it, of Gus's past. But, I wish we could have dug in more to some of the other more established and, characters who had a deeper history than a guy who caught cancer and just decided to cook, drugs. I totally get it. Good show. But no, that's still my thought to this day. And I know even after I finished, saying all this, recording this and uploading it for you guys, I'm probably gonna be like, man, I wish I had said a few other things that I caught. But those are the main things that stand out to me as of right now. So where do we stand? We're getting ready to go into the El Camino movie that's coming up. I have no idea where this is going to take Jesse. Jesse is now a fugitive. Walter is supposedly dead. Some people are assuming that he's alive, but the way he was laid out in season 5 in that finale, the series finale, I don't think Walter's alive. He better not be alive. Seriously. No, I do not think that Jesse should have shot Walter, because Jesse definitely had a chance to kill him. He had every right to kill him at this point, because Jesse's pretty much lost everything because of Walter, including an ex-girlfriend, or should I say a deceased girlfriend, Jane, which Walter didn't kill her. But still, at the same time, he watched her die and he could have saved her. That was a fact that Walter made known to Jesse after Jesse ended up doing quote unquote snitching. But anyway, I don't know where El Camino is going to take Jesse now. And if Walter was alive, Jesse probably really would go after him at this point. But I think that Jesse is just happy to be free. He is a fugitive on the run. Where is he going to go? It looks like he is going to meet up with his friend Skinny Pete based on the trailer that they've come out with for Netflix. I like Skinny Pete, but I don't know. I don't know what to expect with this film. I don't know who's going to show up in the film. A lot of people are wanting to see Saul for sure. Will we see Jesse reach out to any of the past characters like Marie, since he pretty much witnessed and watched Hank die? Will we see him reach out to Skylar? Because right now she's kind of, she's still in the picture as far as when the series of Breaking Bad ended. She's still alive, her kids, but they're not living the life that they would have wanted to live because of Walter. And at the end, they had an interesting conversation, Skylar and Walter, and basically he admitted he did everything for himself, and that's the exact vibe you get from this guy. So who are they gonna drag back into the film? I don't know, but I think the film is gonna be exciting. The reason why, you guys may say, well, dang, if you weren't feeling the show so much, why are you hyped about the film? Well, that's because I don't have to watch it over the course of 4 or 5 seasons. I'm just saying. And honestly, I wish Breaking Bad was a movie. It would make a hell of a good movie. I'm serious. If they would have stuck all of these characters in this pot and put it into about a 2-hour film, it would have been dope. I've seen some great, thriller or, kind of like action-packed movies that they get it all out in those 2 hours. So yeah, that would have been dope. I'm just saying. But anyway, guys, that is my review. That's my thought on Breaking Bad, El Camino. I'm hoping I got it all out. But share with me your thoughts on Breaking Bad, your thoughts on Better Call Saul, your thoughts on El Camino. How do you feel about the overall branding here, and the branch offs, all of that good stuff? What did you think about the characters, and were you or were you not rooting for Walter, Jesse? Who were you rooting for in Breaking Bad? Who did you want to see make it, get away with it, whatever the case may be? Go ahead and drop me a comment in the comment section below. And also, do not forget to subscribe. I try to post videos as often as I possibly can, but let me tell you, when I do come out with them, you guys, I want to hear from you, and I want you to be able to get a notification when I am putting out my next video. So definitely subscribe, and we will chat soon. You guys take care until next time.